Natural Habitat Adventures is pleased to be bringing you this webinar, The Untamed Majesty of Alaska's Coastal Grizzlies, presented by Brad Joseph. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about Brad. Brad is a Natural Habitat staff expedition leader who guides expeditions for grizzlies, polar bears, the aurora, China pandas, and also in Borneo, and works to develop future trips around the world. Brad moved to Alaska in the mid-90s and received a degree in wildlife biology from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. He worked as a wildlife researcher for various agencies throughout the state, such as the Institute of Arctic Biology, the USGS, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Alaska Department of Fish and Game at the McNeil River Brown Bear Sanctuary. Brad has guided expeditions for Natural Habitat for numerous professional photographers and film crews, such as the BBC and IMAX, on the Katmai Coast since 2000. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Brad's photos today as we take this amazing tour into the world of the Alaska coastal grizzlies. So Brad, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Lee. I appreciate that. Thanks for the good words. Okay, guys, hello. This is my fourth webinar on the Grizzlies, which is okay because I love this trip. It's kind of how I started my guiding career. Switched over from acting like a researcher and a ranger on coastal brown bears on the Alaska Peninsula, and switched directly over to guiding in that region, and enjoyed guiding so much. Never looked back, and yeah, so I feel very much in love with this trip, and have, it goes way back. It's very much in my blood. So really appreciate you guys taking the time to look at these pictures and listen to what I have to say about it. Try to make it a little different every year or every time I do this one, but yeah, some of the pictures are the same. I'll just tell a few more different stories, and probably have more stuff to cover. I'm going to talk a little quicker and show more pictures because I know that's what you guys really want to see. But like I said, thanks to Natural Habitat, which is an amazing company to work for and to go on a trip on. I'm actually have a year-round career guiding. Here's me, just to put the face to the name. There I am. Working with in the top is me with a GoPro camera. Worked with the BBC a couple years ago doing a documentary, and yeah. So I also, like Lee said, I guide in China. So you can see me there in the springtime on the photo trips. Just recently, this October, November, was in Churchill, guiding polar bear trips for the 11th season, I think, and that was an awesome season. Okay. Also, in the past 3 winters, I've done aurora trips, mostly the photo trips for the aurora in Churchill. And my newest destination that I've been working on is Borneo, which is super exciting, and I hope to do a webinar on Borneo very soon. So I'll be there in the spring and also in the fall. So yeah. So I will be speaking on behalf of a couple of other guides that do this trip with me. So the first one is one of my all-time, actually they're all, one of my oldest best friends is the guy, that's me on the left, and then there's on the right, that's Justin Gibson. He and I worked together on the Alaska Peninsula doing brown bear guiding in the early 2000s. So I've known him ever since. He's been working with bears ever since, including working as a ranger for Katmai National Park, the Park Service. So he's joined Natural Habitat, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Now he also guides trips in China for us, aurora trips. He does the grizzly trip, this trip, and polar bears. So he's an awesome member of the team, and he is an incredible bear advocate, bear lover, an awesome photographer, and excellent guide. So he loves that place as well. It's one of his dream destinations. He's always told me that for the last 15 years that he's always, and his favorite place to guide is always in the Alaska Peninsula, so and the coast of Katmai National Park. So he is an awesome member of the team. And then we have Drew Hamilton, who is just like Justin and I, just absolutely, we call ourselves bear junkies. We just cannot get enough the bears. Drew has been working since the late 90s on bears in the Alaska Peninsula as well, guiding. Also spent 6 years working at McNeil River State Game Sanctuary for the Department of Fish and Game, which is the largest concentration of brown bears in the world, and trained under some of the legends of the bear world. I worked there in the late 90s, and then after I left, he came in and spent a considerable time there, but wanted to join the Natural Habitat team, so we are so excited to have Drew with us, and Justin and Drew both guided the trips in Katmai last summer. So I did the first half, and then Justin and Drew did the later season. So they'll be back. They excelled. Their love of bears and their knowledge of bears is exemplary, in my opinion. Great part of the team. So also Eric Larson guides for us as well. He was born and raised in Homer, Alaska, which is where I lived for about 15 years, and he's guided almost, I think about 15 years as well. So he knows Alaska, the marine ecosystem, bears like the back of his hand, and also super funny guy, just a great guy to have, just to meet and to show you the wilderness that you love so much. So those are the guides that I'll be speaking on behalf of, and so we're all the same. It doesn't matter which one of us you have, you're going to love this trip, because our job's pretty easy in a lot of ways, because all we have to do is show you the bears, and the bears are amazing. The bears are the real stars of the program, and there's nothing like them. So we keep you safe, and we teach you about them, and let the bears show their stuff, and they're always happy to do so. So it's, in my view, one of the most incredible wildlife viewing experiences on Earth, and I've heard that repeated by many, many people that have gone on the trip or worked with me out there. So yeah, so here we go. I'm just going to talk about bears. Bears are fascinating to many people. I think one of the most charismatic animals on Earth. I think that the number one thing that draws people in, and it's probably what drew me in when I was very young, just learning to appreciate bears when I was a little boy, is just how intimidating they are and how kind of scary they are. And so they demand respect as much as any animal on the planet. So that kind of draws you in. But on the other side, it's kind of juxtaposed is their funny side. They get so much charisma and just hilarious antics, especially the cubs, keep people laughing. So I think that when a lot of people wonder if they're going to be afraid on these trips, I mean, certainly these trips are exciting. It's the real deal. But they're safe, and I think that mostly people are just laughing a lot, because the bears really are in a lot of ways hilarious little creatures. Yeah, they're just great to be around. They're so comical, colorful behaviors, huge personalities, these guys, and so yeah, they really draw people in. I'm fascinated by how intelligent bears are, and that's one of the things I like to try to show people as we're watching bears make a living out there on the coast. They're just picture the smartest dog that you can imagine, and they're a lot smarter than that by a long shot. Incredibly intelligent, figuring out food puzzles, socializing, just learning how to make a living out there. Extremely smart animals. They're also almost supernatural in a way, and they have a sense of smell. To me, in my opinion, they live in a dimension that will always be a mystery to us. We'll never know what it's like to be a bear, because they have a sense of smell that is 2,000 times better than ours. It's 10 times better than a bloodhound, and the bloodhound is 200 times better than ours. So as they're detecting, making decisions, they're smelling. We have no idea what they're thinking about. But their mind is filled with its catalog of scent memories, and they piece together the decisions to make a living. So I think an important thing that I always throw in is that bears aren't just entertaining and interesting animals. They actually are a very, very important part of the ecosystem that they live in, whether it be for seed dispersal or bringing marine nutrients, in the case of the coast, from the ocean, from the rivers, into the terrestrial ecosystem, making their habitat that they live in richer, more productive. So cleaning up streams of dead salmon. So in a way of in my opinion, they are the best stewards of say, a salmon stream where they live here. So they're very, very important, just conservation-wise. But on a deeper level, they symbolize wilderness. I think for North American wilderness, they're the ultimate symbol. They're kind of the king, the most respected. It's the grizzly bear, and they've been persecuted because they do have that side that's intimidating and kind of difficult to live with for some people, unless you treat them with respect. But those areas that have been eradicated, where the grizzlies have been eradicated, such as in California and most of the western United States and the Great Plains, to me that's one of the saddest things that's happened in North America in history. These are amazing animals, and when you're in grizzly country, that feeling you get, that to me is the definition of wilderness. It's that feeling, that humble, electric feeling that you have, that you're not the top predator out there. You need to. There's somebody bigger out. There's a creature bigger out there that demands your respect, and that is wilderness, and that's important for us to preserve. It's part of our heritage. So yeah, I think that one of my missions in life is to make people appreciate bears. I think it's a good niche that fits me, and I can feel good about it because when you decide that you want to protect these bears for those several reasons, and those are just to name a couple, the bears are worth preserving and protecting. You have to protect giant ecosystems and make them intact. So all the food, just like I say, for these brown bears, you have to make sure that the salmon runs there, that the waters are clean, that you can't have mining operations. So you have to set aside giant areas, and that kind of goes for all the bears all over the world. So because bears are an umbrella species, if the wilderness is intact enough for a bear, everything else can live there. So you're protecting whole ecosystems when you protect bears. These bears, so if we're going to show people bears and make them fall in love with bears, I think this is the best place to do it. It's actually on the coast of Katmai National Park for several reasons. And the one that really sticks out in my mind is, I will say without a doubt, in my opinion, these bears, these coastal brown bears or coastal grizzlies, the same species, but they're grizzlies that live on the coast, so they get twice as large due to this rich food source on the coast. And that's why a lot of times I'll call them coastal grizzlies to keep it less confusing. These grizzlies are the most beautiful bears on earth, in my opinion. It's specifically the ones on the Katmai coast. And you just look at the slide here. Where else do you see these huge females with that beautiful blonde shaggy fur, just muscular? She's probably 800 pounds. She's probably as big as any grizzly in Yellowstone, and just beautiful. And the blonde fur. So these are, in my opinion, like some of these, especially these females on the coast of Katmai, are the supermodels of the bear world, like the prom queens. And yeah, so they're, yeah, you just can't look at them enough, can't take enough pictures of them. They're just absolutely stunning. Yeah, most beautiful bears. And so look at these guys, and I will say that these bears look the best the earlier in the year you go. So June up until mid-July, they got that super shaggy winter coat. Yeah, I just let the pictures do the talking. These gorgeous female bears. So these beautiful bears also are in and among some of the greatest scenery on earth, in my opinion. Some of the best scenery in the whole state of Alaska is the coast of Katmai, so what a better place to photograph them with the backdrops is what really makes the coast of Katmai. There's a lot of places to see bears, on the Pacific coast of Alaska and Canada, but few of them have, incredible scenic backdrops like the coast of Katmai National Park. So it's a great place. I mean, everywhere you look, it's just, you don't know whether to look at the bear or look at the scenery. It's just awesome. The coast of Katmai it's like a natural garden of flowers in the summer. Starting in late June, you get a succession of different species of flowers, from the earliest ones being the lupins, up until the fireweed being later on in late July and August. And so everywhere you look is just awesome scenery. So I love to take to see these bears going through these flowers. It's one of my favorite things in the summer. Or just the beautiful twilight that we get in the northern latitudes right on the ocean here. Gorgeous backgrounds to show off the most beautiful bears in the world. Really unique backgrounds too. We try to show people variety of behaviors on our trips, and also for photographers, variety of backgrounds, unique backgrounds, pictures that you don't see when you open up just the generic Grizzly calendar or book. You know, we'll show you stuff that other people haven't seen before, like, you know, sandy, rocky shorelines. Okay, so I'm going to just jump right into some of the logistics of the trip, just to give you some of you guys might not even know where I'm talking about when I say the coast of Katmai, but I imagine you recognize this. This is Alaska. I've lived in Alaska for it's about 20 years now, and I moved to Alaska to be as close as I can to as many bears as possible, and it's definitely the best place for bears on Earth. And the best place is this area right here, the coast of Katmai National Park. So this little section right here is where the whole webinar I'm talking about takes place. You'll notice Kodiak Island is right there. That's where we start the trip. So Kodiak Island, well, let me just go back to that map. Okay, so one more time. Oh, there's Kodiak Island. So people generally fly into Anchorage, and from Anchorage there are daily flights, commercial flights to Kodiak, which is where we will meet you and start the trip off in Kodiak. Kodiak is a beautiful place. They call it the Emerald Island because of these gorgeous green slopes, and you'll notice all those flowers as well. Weather's not always this good in Kodiak, but when it is this good, it's as stunning as any place on Earth. But the town of Kodiak, there's about 6,000 people in it, and it's got really fascinating history. It was inhabited by the Alutiiq natives for 7,000 years, and then it was in 1763 that it was discovered by this Russian named Glotov. And eventually it became the capital of Russian Alaska and became the base for the sea otter harvest, which is really kind of a sad thing. Sea otters almost became extinct, as did some of the, and it's, you know, there's some sad stories in history though. The United States bought Alaska in 1867, and Kodiak became a fishing port. One of the largest, for years, has been one of the largest commercial fishing ports in North America. And then in World War II, it was had military significance, and because the United States really fortified Kodiak, so they were always afraid of the attack from the Japanese. And today, it also has a huge Coast Guard base. So there's a lot to Kodiak that's you know, really interesting. We show you Kodiak the best way possible, and we go on this boat called the Galley Gourmet, and cruise along in looking for marine wildlife. And our two hosts in Kodiak are Linda Himmelblum and Marion Owen, both of which are extremely well-known people in the region. Linda's a biology professor, a geology professor, and Marion has been a professional photographer since the 80s, specializing in Kodiak. And she's also a gourmet cook, and will cook on board of the ship for you as you look for sea lions, whales, puffins, sea otters, things. So awesome way to spend half a day in Kodiak here. And then we fly out to Kodiak. In fact, you know, the guide, me or Drew or Justin or Eric, will actually be out on the Katmai coast. You won't see us till you get out there, but you would fly in one of these float planes. Andrew Air Service, it's about an hour float trip over to the coast of Katmai National Park, where you will meet us. We'll take a skiff over and pick you guys up from the airplane. If you've never ridden a float plane before, it's quite an experience. It's a great part of it to start the adventure as well. And also, you know, extremely scenic. It's a beautiful flight over there. So, and this is where the bear portion of the trip. I mean, there are bears in Kodiak for sure. It's a famous island for bears. But generally the bears are quite shy in Kodiak. There is still hunting that's allowed in the Kodiak National Wildlife Refuge. So bear viewing isn't so good on Kodiak Island. In fact, anywhere where people try to take you to see bears on Kodiak, it's not as good because people hunt bears. And bears quickly learn that humans are a threat, and they don't like to get viewed, and so they'll start to get uncomfortable with humans at like 100 yards or more, and that's if you even see them. A lot of times they'll disappear before you even know they're there. But on the coast of Katmai National Park, it's a totally different story, because basically there's basically the same bears. They look the same. They're about the same size. The largest bear ever taken was on Kodiak Island, the record. But the bears on Katmai Coast have the same lifestyle, and they are generally about the same size as well. So giant bears. So the Katmai National Park is 4 million acres, and it was in 1912 kind of what started this protection in its place. There was an enormous eruption by the Nova Rupta. Just celebrated its 100-year anniversary of the Nova Rupta eruption, which blanketed this region in ash and created what's called the Valley of 10,000 Smokes. And in 1916 and 1917, the National Geographic Society sent in this explorer named Griggs, who kind of discovered the Valley of 10,000 Smokes shortly after the eruption, and sort of petitioned that this place become a national monument because it's so incredible. And in the 80s, with Anilka, it was expanded to this full 4 million acres and became Katmai National Park and Preserve. And in the national park, the designated wilderness area portion, there's no hunting allowed. So I think, talking to the old timers, there probably hasn't really been any substantial poaching or any kind of hunting or anything that bears would be scared of people since maybe the early 80s or something. So it's a long time for the bears to have lost their fear of humans. And we're also deep in a protected area, so that at least where we guide our trips, those bears really don't wander into the areas that are hunted. So I never worry about those bears getting habituated, so it's all good in that way. But what it does create is this area right here, which is also the densest population of brown bears on Earth, along with the most beautiful scenery. And those bears are also easily viewed, not afraid of humans. So, back to the scenery part, this is the second most volcanic region on Earth. So yeah, you could easily go to the Katmai Coast, and if you didn't see a bear, just by the scenery, it'd be well worth it. So you see these snow-covered mountains and studded with glaciers. Those are active volcanoes. There's about 7 active volcanoes on the coast of Katmai. So just phenomenal country. And this is, see our boat. This is our boat. It's the Natural Habitat Ursus. We've used it since about 2008. It is my personal preference for running our trips. Specifically because it is the ultimate machine for this area. It's an expedition ship. It's originally was a Bering Sea crab boat. That's what it was custom built for in the 1980s. Actually, for you guys that are fans of the show The Deadliest Catch, it was the original Time Bandit. And the Hillstrands built a new Time Bandit, and this boat kind of had several owners and fished. But then when the crab rationalization happened about 10 years ago, yeah, this boat went up for sale and became our expedition ship. So it's got huge fuel tank, and a freshwater reserve, so we don't actually have to go back to town. It's about an 18-hour trip back to Homer, which is kind of our home base, or it's about 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours to Kodiak. So we don't go back and forth, and we don't carry our clients back and forth. They fly out to meet us. So we're out there, and it's an awesome ship. It's got hydraulic cranes on board, so we can pull our skiffs on board and travel in any kind of weather conditions. And we stay in the protected bays, and so it's not really like a an Arctic trip or anything where you have to deal with these tremendous sea conditions. It's very mild for what we have to deal with, because we stay in protected waters. But anytime we do have to travel, this is such a stable boat. Even if we do have some choppy conditions or some swells, they just handle it great. So, say seasickness and stuff is rarely a problem when we do travel between bays to find the most bears. On board, it's very comfortable. In fact, these pictures are from this last couple of years, but the boat has just had a refit, an outfit. Kind of redone the inside of it in the bathroom area and the kitchen, so it's going to look better than it does in these pictures. But it's a cozy, stable platform for us. Oh, sorry. There's our chef, Carrie, who's worked with us for it's about 12 years now, so she's really a part of the family. So an incredible chef, fixing great food. A lot of it's flown in from Marion's Garden in Kodiak. A lot of awesome seafood. If you like seafood, it's one of the best trips you can take, to be honest. And also, my wife, Melissa, right here, she's digging in the garden there and at our house in Homer. She's also started cooking again. She cooked with me years ago, and she just started doing it again. And so her reports are equally as good as Carrie's. In fact, I think several of them that I read said it was some of the best food they've ever had on an ADAB trip, and that's actually saying a lot. So she's a super amazing chef, and so you got to keep you guys fed, and you won't lose any weight on this trip, trust me. So, and then there's 4 bedrooms, so everybody will bunk up with another person, and that's a cozy place to recharge. The days are long, and the nights are short because we're out viewing bears most of the time, and so we can, one of the cool things to do is that midnight sun sets below the mountains. You can see it from out on the deck and get a good night's sleep for the next day. So I'll get into the heart of the trip, which is basically how we do it, which is we run our clients and the guide inshore on skiffs. And there's our Captain Bill. A lot of you guys have been on trips recently and might come back in the future. Will recognize Bill. Bill and I have worked together on this boat since, I don't know, 2000, I think. Yeah, so about 15 years known Bill. And he is awesome. And in fact, he loves this place as well so much, and he actually named his daughter Hallow after Hallow Bay, which I think is a really special thing. So we cruise around in the skiffs. We look at different marine mammals, birds, and bears from the boat. But once we get off on shore, that's where the real part of the trip begins. And I just want to show you a picture. This is kind of how we do it. We're not viewing bears from a vehicle or an observation tower or anything like that. We go in a small group, and the maximum number of people for these trips is 8 people. And we go ashore, which is small enough that we don't have a big impact on the bears. And we go and we sit down in strategic places. We don't approach the bears. We sit in strategic little locations. And if the bears are comfortable with us because we do it right, which they almost always are, because the bears are very, very used to people out there that do non-threatening things. There's a great relationship that allows us to get, kind of these up close and personal with the bears, if those bears choose to. We never affect their behavior or push it, but if they choose to do their thing close to us, which is the majority of the time, we get awesome unmatched bear viewing. You'll notice everybody's kind of sitting down on stools or buckets. That is because it's more comfortable than standing, but that is one of my tricks that I learned from McNeil River years ago. If you act submissive and you get down and you don't move, then the bears feel much more comfortable with you. So that's one of our ways of having no impact on the bears, just being passive observers. And there truly is nothing like having these bears, these huge bears walking around very close to you. And we don't carry guns. Technically, it's legal to carry guns in the national park now, but for years before George Bush got that passed through, when I first started guiding out there, there was no option. You weren't allowed to have a gun in the national park, and I thought that was great. I didn't even have to. So you find out alternative ways to keep safe, and ways that are actually much more effective than guns and more reasonable to use than guns. So it creates hand flares, but mostly it's all of us never have to use those. It's body language, so yeah, I could go on and on about how to stay safe with these bears, but you can trust me and the other guides that it is incredibly safe. And some people are tentative; they know it's going to be, borderline too exciting for them. But once they get out there, they immediately see the bears accept you, and people get relaxed very quickly, and we just can enjoy ourselves out there with these amazing animals. There's my buddy Tony Boot from the UK. He's been on a couple trips. So it's one of my favorite pictures I've taken of people and bears together. He's an awesome guy, him and his wife. Yeah, so I mean, just imagine I'm sitting here with these bears around you. It's incredible. Like this, the mountain above is the Devil's Desk, and it's Hallow Glacier. So it's like 3 active volcanoes towering 7,000 feet above, a verdant green meadow below you, and with brown bears, and on eye level, on their terms. I showed you a lot of pictures of people in the sunshine, and it's probably no secret to anybody that it's not all. This is not Arizona. It's not always sunny, and in Alaska, on the coast of Alaska in the summer. But we do go out in all weather conditions. If you want to, we go out and we just suit you up. We have chest waders for everybody to keep people warm and dry. And with the bears, don't care if it's raining and windy. So we still go out in it. And so I'm going to talk to you real quickly. The most common question that people ask is, when's the best time to go? And I will tell you, there is absolutely no way for me to answer that. There is no best time to go. We run trips from June 15 to September 15. And there's no time in there that's better than the others. There's just different behaviors, so it depends on what you want to see. So I'm just going to quickly run through why you would want to go at the different times. The only way to really do this trip is to do it 3 times. Once in late June, early July, once in, say, early August, and once in September. Then you can see all 3 of it. So you can't, it just depends on what you want to see. And there's no, actually, to be honest, this trip blows away every other trip in the NatHab catalog for repeat clients by a huge long shot. So, when you look at a NatHab catalog, you see all these. If you go somewhere, if you go to Borneo, yeah, it'd be cool to go back again, but I mean, gosh, there's China, and there's Africa, and there's all these other places to go, and Galapagos. Why would you go back to the same place? And it makes sense. You pick the catalog, you get another trip. But for some reason, people can't get enough of this trip. They go and they say, they just want to know when can I come back to see the same stuff that's a little different. So yeah, huge repeat. So you got to sign up pretty early for this trip because it does fill up pretty soon. So okay, so June. Why would you come in June? Well, I'll tell you, there's no salmon running yet. And a lot of times people will be like, well, why would you want to go see brown bears in Alaska that aren't fishing for salmon? Isn't that the whole point? Well, it's incredible, and that's towards the end of the program I'll talk about the fishing. Yeah, it's awesome to see bears fishing for salmon, for sure. But when they're not fishing for salmon, you get to see some pretty other unique, cool things. So the first thing that the bears do when they come out of hibernation is they start concentrating on the river mouths and these intertidal deltas of sedge, and in pretty large numbers. And the sedge grass is incredible. It's not just normal grass. This is sedges, and they're high in protein and easily digestible. So the female bears, the ones that are single, they're going to try to gain weight because they're going to maybe have cubs the next year. All they really care about, the single females, is eating and gaining weight. So they're just going to be like a magnet for these areas. Wherever the best food is, that's where they're going to be. So if you find these meadows, and we know where they are, in June, you'll find these females. And we're not the only ones looking for these beautiful females. Some of the biggest bears in the world, these giant coastal brahmas, the biggest, studliest guys, are going to come in and try to also, they want to find these beautiful females in June and early July because it's mating season. So this is an awesome thing to watch. You get to see some of the most beautiful females and also some of the biggest, most incredible males. So like this bear right here, his name is, we call him Van. He's gotten pretty famous from a documentary that we did with the BBC called The Great Bear Stakeout. And we see him every year. I've watched him go from a really big, tough, subadult bear to absolutely the biggest bear I've ever seen. He is hundreds of pounds larger than the other largest bear I've ever seen, like the second. And he's just a dominant bear. He's great around us. He's quite a character, and he's totally cool with people. But he's a force in the bear world like no other I've ever seen. And yeah, get to see this sort of stuff. There's a lot of competition during mating season, so it's very exciting. And I could go on. I have like an hour presentation that I do on mating season stuff, like the behaviors. So you're just gonna have to go out there, and I'll basically talk you through all this cool stuff, because there's so much competition, because the female bears keep their cubs for 3 years, and a lot of times out here 4 years, and sometimes even into the 5th summer. So there's lots of willing males that really want to mate. There's not that many single females. So they're very competitive, and they can get violent. So if you want to see some of the violence, usually when I see a bear getting ready to fight, I'll put my still camera down and shoot some video. So you have to go to my YouTube channel later, or my blog, and you'll see what happens when the bears fight full speed. So during mating season, maybe isn't the best time to go see mothers and cubs. I mean, it makes up for it, because you see the mating season is it's incredible to see these unique behaviors, this competition, males vying for the best females, and females also competing for the most attractive males. So it's awesome to see. The females with cubs a lot of times don't really want to be in the middle of this action. So, but the experienced females, like the older mothers that really know the game and they've been around for a long time and they can handle themselves, they will come down early. So we do often see cubs, even the little cubs, the spring cubs, during mating season. But there's more cubs after mating season, and in the peak of mating season's right around the last couple of weeks in June. And then you still see some mating season behavior, but it kind of tails off towards late June and early July, and then you see more of the females with cubs show up. But if you do go early and you do see some of these younger cubs, say June 15th, 20th, 25th, they look tiny, and so they're even cuter. So spring cubs grow very quickly. Not just this would be a spring cub, say the last week in June. This would be a spring cub in September. So you can see I'm going to just switch back and forth here. So you see how fast they grow. So as the bears are in these meadows, they're not focused on catching salmon yet. The salmon start to run sometime in late July. Mid-July to late July. You'll get a few windows, short windows, where you see some fishing in early July. Sometimes, depends on the year, but usually it's mid-July, late July, it kind of gets going. But before that, you get to see bears basically that are not so obsessed with fishing, and so you get to see behaviors that they don't have time to do the rest of the year, such as just relaxing, sparring. So the young males, they need to learn how to fight if they're going to compete and be big, tough breeding season males later in their life. So they spend a lot of time practice fighting, which is awesome to see. We also see that in Churchill a lot, and it's one of the most favorite things for people to see is sparring bears. When the bears start fishing, they don't really have the time or interest to do nearly as much sparring. You also just get these incredibly idyllic scenes of bears in these beautiful verdant meadows, these ponds, and it's as the females with cubs come down, they're just about gaining weight. So if the sedge is the best thing to eat, that's where they're going to be. And this is really where some of the greatest highlights of the season take place. Is just the eating. Now cubs have a short attention span, and they eat the grass. They pretty much eat bear food as soon as they come out of the den. But they need to develop their social behaviors, and they need to learn how to fight. And the way they do that is with play. And so play behavior with the cubs is extensive. So a lot of times, while the mother is busy eating, making sure everything's safe, the cubs will just be wrestling away and playing. And there's nothing really in the animal world that really is much better than watching a couple of little cubs go at it. It's awesome. They love to play. Yeah, the sibling bond is something that's so sweet, just watching these big brothers and sister bears that are trying to learn how to be a bear in this big wild world, following their mom, and they've got this special bond it's incredible. But sometimes, they don't have a sibling. It'll just be a mom and a single cub. And it's interesting, when you have a mom and the mothers don't really play with the cubs very much. Why would they need to? The cubs are constantly playing, and they're getting that play behavior by themselves, and mom doesn't have to spend the energy. But if mom only has one cub, you'll notice that she spends far more time playing with the cub than if she had two. And that just really goes to show that that bear somehow makes kind of a conscious decision. Well, if the cub doesn't have a playmate, then I'm the playmate. That cub has to play, has to learn how to use its body, how to see its strength in relation to other bears, learn those techniques, needs to socialize like that. So it's the single mother, or the mother will be the playmate, and those are some of the most intimate moments that we see as a mom with a, because all this playing, the cubs are eating grass, but the grass is the sedge is not really enough calories for those cubs to support this super fast growth. So nursing is always a constant activity. So the cubs, after playing, they get tired and they're going to start begging mom, and she knows what she's got to do, and she does it. And so nursing is the milk of the bears is 30% fat, and they nurse several times a day. So now the females don't nurse unless they feel really secure. But luckily, when we're out there with these bears, they don't look at us as a threat at all. So very commonly, they will just wander closer to the group even, and then nurse in front of us. And then when the bears nurse, they make this cute little purring sound. It's more than purring. It almost sounds like a beehive or something, but something you got to hear in your life. So intimate purring shots. And then after that, so when we're watching the mothers and cubs, if they're grazing, I'll say, okay, guys, if we sit here, eventually they're going to play. And after they're done playing, they're probably going to nurse. And then not always in this order. And after that, it's going to be nap time. But there's few animals in nature that are more fun to watch sleep than bears, especially mothers and cubs, because they're so cute, cozy, and they're rolling on top of each other. So you can basically have a great day watching bears sleep in front of you. The females don't really get good night's sleeps or good solid resting naps, because either the cubs tickling their feet or something, playing with them, or there's always some kind of potential danger on the horizon. So as cute and goofy as the scene often is a lot of times, it's you're constantly reminded that this is a very powerful, very scary, very dangerous world for mothers and cubs. They're always looking around. They're mostly afraid of other male bears that might be a threat to the cubs, might kill the cubs. And specifically, I won't get too far into that, but why it happens, it's actually that it's a food source for the males. It doesn't have anything to do with bringing them back into estrus, but that's another topic. I got to stay on track here. Yeah, so basically the females are very vigilant, and when you see these females and always standing up, they want to get a look over that tall grass. Obviously makes for some pretty epic photo opportunities. So we love these bear families. Sometimes the threats happen, and they do come, they materialize into the real thing, and then you get to see sometimes what makes the grizzly and the brown bear so special, which is the mothers, which is they're absolutely fearless. They evolved in the Pleistocene in a place where they didn't have anywhere to run, like up a tree, like black bears did in forests. So a treeless environment. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and there's other bigger, stronger bears around there. Other bigger, stronger animals. And you needed to. It didn't matter how big you were. You had to, if you were going to ever be a successful mother, you had to defend your cubs with your life, and that means fight to the death if you have to. So they just are absolutely fearless, and that's how they do it. Now, this picture right here looks almost like I could tell you that it's a mother wrestling with her cub, but this is actually probably a 500 or 600 pound female going after about probably an 11 or 1200 pound male. Absolutely no fear, and you just got to admire them so much. Their ability to protect these cubs is just awesome. Like, that's a mother just going into it, right, with this giant guy. So you may think, well, if they're that ferocious about protecting their cubs, how do we do it? Well, like I told you, the bears those female bears are the worst nightmare to something that it's afraid of. So if the female thinks you're going to hurt the cubs, she will go at it full bore. But If she's not afraid of you, she's not going to do that. And they're not afraid of us because we, over generations, haven't harmed these bears. And we sit in submissive positions and we're relaxed. And these bears are incredibly intelligent and they know what's dangerous and what's not. They're very smart. And they just have chosen that we aren't a threat, so we get along with them. And most of the time they just ignore us. And they'll be walking around, they'll be looking everywhere but where we are. Every once in a while, you do realize that they are aware of us. They don't want to look at us. They don't want to, I don't think, want to challenge us or make us feel uncomfortable. But every once in a while, they'll give you a little eye contact. And know that they know you're there, even though they're kind of ignoring you. And they don't mind you being there. And it's awesome. It's a lot different than when a brown bear walks into somebody's backyard in Homer. They don't get a real welcome response. But when we get into their backyard, they welcome us. It's fine. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so sometimes you'll get those eye contact moments where you wonder, that bear looks into you, into your eyes, and you wonder, what's it thinking? What does it think we are? And I know that they're not afraid of us. I know that they don't think we're going to provide them food, because that's why they don't bother us. But I also know that they know that we admire them, and it's something that's kind of hard to explain. But you can feel that they know that we think they're so cool. We love to watch them. We just observe. That there's some strange vibe there, mutual respect, mutual admiration, or something. But it's very, very different than the relationship between bears and man. The rest in other parts of the world. So it's a place. This is something to savor. These are wild bears. I mean, they're totally wild, and it's just a neutral relationship of, like I said, mutual respect, mutual admiration. So there's other bear families. What happens when what do these bear families do among each other? And usually mothers, when cubs, will keep to themselves. They don't want to risk another bear being anywhere close to them. So there's not really a lot that goes on, within families. But there's several places we go. Some of these females, they're sisters. There's mothers and daughters. They're just basically bears that have grown up around each other for so many years and know each other. And mothers have this kind of unspoken thing that they understand that, the other situation. So what we've noticed, it doesn't happen all the time, but recently, the last year or two, it happened a lot. Our bear families that come together and kind of interact. And that's incredible. So what you'll notice in this picture here, so the bear on the right her name is Melissa, and she has that's a small third summer female. And so they know each other really well, and you'll see that the bears are sitting down. Remember when I was saying that we sit down on our buckets and stools? That's the same kind of thing. The bears will do the same thing. That's how we learned it in the first place. Is bear body language. If you sit down, it means I'm not going to be confrontational. I'm not a threat. I don't want to get into a confrontation. Let's get along, basically. Sitting down. So that's what we do, and they do it to each other. This is a great example. So all the action that we see is not all up in the meadow. At low tide, the bears go down to the beach, and they utilize all these different food sources, which I think makes the Katmai Coast so amazing. So there's some places where you go see bears, and they concentrate on the salmon river. And if you go there when the salmon aren't running, you don't see a bear. Well, here you'll see bears regardless of if the salmon are running or not, because those bears are local, and they basically make a living on what's there. And there's so many different food sources, and it really shows how smart bears are and how resourceful they are, such as digging clams. And they go out on the clam flats, and mothers teach the cubs how to dig clams, razor clams and butter clams, steamer clams, different ones. They eat marine worms out there as well. So all this stuff at low tide in these sandy flats. It's a very famous, the Katmai Coast clam digging bears is a very famous thing that it's coveted by bear photographers, bear lovers, people that are fascinated by bears, film crews. Some really cool behavior. Some of the bays we go to, they don't, instead of sandy flats, there's kind of like rocky shorelines and stuff. And under these rocks are one of the other bears' favorite foods, which is the blimmy eel or gunnel fish. and they'll flip rocks over. This is a beautiful female bear that we named Becky after Becky Paul, who does all the, when you go on an ad hoc trip and you get all the pre-departure briefing stuff and all this stuff comes in the mail, so she's in charge of all that. She came to Katmai once, and she was the first one to spot this gorgeous female bear, blonde female, in one of the bays, and so she earned herself a bear named after her. This is Becky, one of my favorite bears. And flipping rocks over for blimmies is one of Becky's favorite ways to make a living at low tide. They also just random things, there'll be a tide, the tide will go out and it'll trap flounder. There's lots of flounder there that come in and out with the high tides, and sometimes a flounder will get caught. The tide will go out too fast and they'll get stranded. Bears will go pursue that, and you get these really cool, unique shots like a bear with a flounder. Okay, now this doesn't happen every year, but I've probably seen 4 or 5 times. This is amazing. So it was kind of a sad thing that happened in the North Pacific, where there was a whale, kind of a die-off of whales because of this toxic algae bloom, because of the warmer water. Excuse me, I'm just talking too much. My throat's getting dry. So yeah, it was a number, nobody knows how many, but fin whales that died. And there's nothing nice about that. But if a fin whale was going to wash up anywhere, it's not be good if it washed up on the Katmai coast, because it becomes a windfall for the bears and also for bear viewers. So we did have that opportunity. It was pretty amazing this summer to watch these bears feed on this fin whale. Now, just real quick, just go back. You'll notice how these bears are smart enough to realize that if there's enough food for lots of bears, then it's kind of stupid to spend all your time defending and fighting and risking getting hurt, chasing other bears away. It's actually, they're very capable of sharing a food source. So these coastal brown bears can concentrate on a food source in a high number, and they can share. So in my opinion, salmon stream or sedge meadow or a whale like this, bears that succeed are bears that have what I would call a flexible personal space, that they can negotiate, and they don't have like a set personal space, like they get mad if a bear gets within X distance. They are very flexible. I think that's one reason why it's so easy for us to also hang out around them, is that flexible personal space. It's their comfort level of what's around them, humans or other bears, it's negotiable. And in a situation like a beached whale, there can be lots of bears will get along together, very close proximity. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, this is just a gift from the ocean, and the bears with a sense of smell, as keen as I was mentioning before. You imagine that they're going to just come in from all over the place, and this is going to be a great thing for them. Lots of food for lots of bears. Also wolves. Wolves came in as well, which is pretty cool. I hope I'm not going through these pictures too fast. I hope everybody can see them. Got this. I'm going to just do that one more time. Just wait till I see my little green. I've got a little thing where it tells me how many percent the audience. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty incredible, is having bears and wolves sharing whale carcass. So this doesn't happen every year, but I just figured I would just show you one of our highlights of this last season. And this whale provided food for a lot of bears for quite a long time. All right. So starting, like I said, mid-July, late July, August through September, the salmon begin coming in like they do. This is why the bears are so large and why so many are there. This is, again, miracle gift from the ocean every year. Luckily, every year, salmon come back. It's vulnerable. I don't know how long that's going to last with how we treat our oceans and fisheries, but they're still coming back enough to feed all these beautiful bears. And we have the pink salmon, chum salmon, silver salmon, pinks, chums, silvers, and sockeyes. All come into the Katmai coast at different times. Different rivers have different timings. So It's a very complex sort of chess game we play out there to be at the right place at the right time over just years and years and years of experience of where to be, where the fish are going to show up, what weather conditions, what tides, to show our folks the coolest stuff. Often with some amazing backdrops. So it's a little bit unique place to see bears. I mean, yeah, you've seen pictures maybe where there's more bears concentrated in one area. But these rivers are wide deltas, and the bears are all out on the beach chasing these extremely fast, strong pre-spawn salmon. So they're tougher than the catch. So the action, it's not like the bear just wanders down, grabs a half-dead fish, bites the head off, drops it. I mean, some of this action that we see when they're going after these salmon is intense. It's like one of the nature's display of like the nature's greatest athletes. Incredible speed, power, strategy, skill, all involved to catch these fish. I mean, if you went in there and tried to chase these salmon down, you wouldn't stand a chance. I mean, not even close. I mean, what we're talking about. But these guys are so fast, so strong. It's amazing. They get into these deep water and they just plow through at 30 miles an hour with their claws, and they can get the salmon. They're good at it. So some of the most skilled fishermen in the bear world, in my opinion, because of where they're used to fishing, going after these silvers and these chums that are coming in full speed, getting stuck. Yeah, this is high action bears fishing. So like you'll wait there. You'll have a bear waiting in the delta for 35 minutes, and there's no fish. And all of a sudden, one will just be stranded. So they're coming up the river at high tide, and then a lot of times they get stranded when the tide goes out and the water gets more shallow. So these bears will see this stuff, and people say that bears. A lot of times people don't think that bears have very good vision. Well, these bears have an amazing vision. It's at least as good as ours. I think the bears have, these grizzlies especially, have better vision than we do. Polar bears do, I think, really good eyes. But as I see them spot these little, wakes or something out that I can't even see up binoculars, some little splash, and they just go tearing off after it. This is a little sequence that I'll show you real quick that happened this year. Is the bear got a stranded salmon, but then another bear came up and they wanted to. They stole it from the other guy. But some pretty cool shots. Yeah, this is just all this happened in about a split second. No, I'm still here. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, how am I doing on time? I need to get going here, huh?
Yeah, we're at our hour, but I want you to finish. I think everybody wants to stick with you because this is so interesting.
Yeah. Even though I'm flipping through this quickly, is it coming out okay?
It is.
Nobody's.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of competition with these fish are high calorie, hard to get, and there's a lot of bears out there. So we do see some pretty epic, violent interactions with the bears. Okay, but it's not all out there. It's like this is a picture that our guy Drew took at another one of the little secret places we go. This is a waterfall where the sockeye salmon will run up it when the water's high enough, and you can see these bears will cluster in pretty high numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bears in one spot. They're all getting along together. So a lot of times these bears will be looking for stranded salmon or just sitting there totally motionless waiting for a salmon to pop up. And so I was able to get this kind of slow exposure shot from the waterfall. A lot of different fishing techniques. Like this guy, a female with a big 4th summer cub. She just sits on this rock. I don't know how she does it, but she plunges in and somehow with enough force and power and alertness comes out with a fish almost every time. Just different places we go. We know the place. And this is how we do it. This is one of my dear friends, and Krista from Switzerland, who's been on many trips. She loves bears as much as I do. And this is how we do it. We just go sit next to the river. We're not so close to the river that we get in the bears' way. we give plenty of buffer. And yeah, bears are busy catching salmon. They know we're not going to steal the fish from them. They care less. We're sitting there. They don't care as long as we're in a small group and sitting down and back away from the river enough. We just get awarded this incredible opportunities to watch them do what makes them so famous, so big, so plentiful there. Otherwise, other animals we see, yes, of course we see eagles. Bald eagles love salmon as much as the bears. And everybody wants to get their iconic eagle shots on a trip like this. And so we often do. And the beautiful background scenery. A lot of eagle nests out there too that we show you guys and we find out where they are. Oyster catchers, I love these. There's a little oyster catcher family in one spot. They're used to us. They sit there and watch them feed the chicks. Other iconic species that people generally want to see when they're out there that we see depending on the time of year and everything is puffins, horned puffins, tufted puffins, wolves, yes. Some years are better than others. When you have a really mild winter, the wolves don't do as well. They like the deep snow to get moose. When there's not much snow on the ground and it's a mild winter, the moose can outrun them and they don't do as well. But there are wolves out there. They live on the ocean, watch the bears make a living, and actually learn from the bears what to eat. So I've seen wolves study the bears, study the behaviors, and learn how to get these blimmies and different fish that get stranded. I've seen them catch salmon by watching the bears. And if you go to my YouTube channel, just scroll through, there's 50 videos or whatever, I'll see some footage I got of a wolf catching a salmon once. I think the wolves are doing pretty well. I think Alaska needs a really good deep snow year for the wolf pups to do well this winter. The numbers have dropped down a little bit recently, but we've probably see wolves about 85% of the trips out there on our bear trips over the last 10 years, which is pretty darn good. And then I always throw this in. This is a terrible picture, but it's a wolverine. Yeah, we're always looking for wolverines. I've seen about 10 of them. So it doesn't, you can't expect to see one, but it's good wolverine country. And every once in a while we'll see moose. The moose are generally hanging out where the bears are not congregated, and that's usually where we are. So it's not the greatest moose viewing, but there definitely moose out there. Red foxes, depending on where we are. Another common sight for us. This guy's got a bunch of lemmings in his mouth. Or a big flounder carcass. Harbor seals, sea lions, these are just other critters that we see as we go from bay to bay looking for the best bears. Doll porpoise, small porpoise that like to ride the bow of our boats. We see this almost every time we leave the bays and go out offshore to go to the next place. All right, so that's pretty much it. A couple things if you guys want to see more, learn more. If you go on this trip, this is like obligatory required viewing. You have to see this show, the Great Bear Stakeout, and it really tells the whole story, kind of like I told, but just with basically the same film crew that filmed Planet Earth and Frozen Planet. So high budget, high extreme skill, lots of time out there. It's awesome. This is the best bear documentary ever done. I was on the crew for 2 months several years ago. And the best way to go is go to the BBC. Don't go to the Discovery Channel site. We'll go to the BBC site, and there's links that you can buy it. I don't think the Discovery or BBC is playing it anymore, but if you're from the United States and you try to look at these clips and videos, it won't show because the Discovery Channel blacks it out. Best thing to do is just get on, download it, buy it, and watch it. And if you're on the fence and you don't really think you want to do this trip, then don't watch this show. Because if you watch this, there's no way you're not gonna go. Another thing is quick footage of bear fights and wolves and all kinds of stuff. You can go to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, and then when you click search, just go Brad Josephs. It's my full name, and I have lots of cool videos. And there's another resource is a blog that I do called Bears and Beyond. It's not just to count my grizzlies. I do blogs on churchill polar bears in China and Borneo and other places that I work. But there's some cool bear stuff in there. And so if you want to, and this is what you, that whale carcass I was talking about, there was some amazing fights that went on. And so if you go to my blog and you click, there's a dead fin whale at the end of the rainbow. That's one article. There's an embedded video in there. It's some of the most amazing bear fights I've ever seen. It's definitely worth checking out. So Bears and Beyond, BradJosephs.com takes you to the same place. AlaskaBearsandWolves.com takes you to the same place. And that's it. And I'm only 7 minutes after the 1 hour.
You know, and everybody loves everything you have to say.
This is Chris Sherman's picture. And yeah, I think it's always going to be the last picture of the webinars in the future. So she generously donated it, and she was with me on one of my trips when she took it, and it's awesome. So, and I know Chris is listening because she's fully become a bear junkie as well. So I know she's listening. So thank you, Chris. It's an awesome shot. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. It was really fantastic. And we have some good questions here. I'm going to just jump right in. The babies, the cubs, during what season are they mostly born, or most of them born?
All bears are all born at the same time, which is at Christmas time in the den. So the youngest cubs that you'll see out in the summertime would be 6 months old. All the bears are born at Christmas time, right around Christmas, right around in the den.
Okay.
In hibernation.
How many years can a mama bear have cubs?
It just depends on the female and depends on where she lives, but sometime in the mid-20s to late 20s, and she'll stop going into estrus and having cubs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Shifting gears to ask about birds nesting, what about if you wanted to also see birds nesting and see some of the young? Is there a good time for that?
Yeah, for eagles it's good, and for and oyster catchers, it's good, and but generally the rest of the birds that nest are going to be kind of hidden. You don't really see them. So eagles and oyster catchers, and that's pretty much going to be kind of all summer. You don't. If that was, it would have to be before, say, probably. For the oyster catchers, maybe September, it's August 1st, they get big enough, they don't really look like chicks anymore. Eagles are going to fledge and leave the nest in September, probably early September, late August, something like that. Yeah, I don't know if this may be not the best trip out there for nesting birds, though. We're pretty much focused on bears. But yeah, for eagle chicks, yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. And then wolves, what about best time for seeing wolves?
Oh, it's so random, off the map, I can't predict. Sometimes it's early in the year because in the past we've had wolf dens and we hung out with them and you can see the pups and stuff, but recently those wolf dens have not been used. So we just generally see them scattered around, running around looking for stuff. I mean, it's just kind of all random. If you get lucky enough that there's a whale carcass or something like that, then you're going to probably hit it well. Otherwise, it's totally up in the air, 100% unpredictable. All I can tell you is that about 80% of the trips in the last 10 years we've had wolf sightings.
Okay, good. A quick camera question for you. What lens do you recommend for this trip?
You're going to have opportunities really close and opportunities far away. People that bring a 600 are going to be happy. People that bring a 300 will also be happy. I think the best thing to do, like for me, like all the pictures, they could be a lot better if I had better gear. I'm guiding, so I can't really photograph and have big lenses like a lot of my clients do. I'm there to take care of them, so pictures aren't as actually the pictures don't do the strip justice that I just showed you. But what I've been using is a 300 fixed 300 with a crop sensor like a 7D. And then this last year, I went ahead and went to a 70 to 200, and that using a 1.4 converter for the times where things are far away would be really good. People often will bring a 400 or 500 if they can carry it, and they're having a great time with it. Depends on what you want to carry. the minimum of 300, but you also want to have a wide angle too. So 1 to 400, 70 to 200 in the converter. Those are generally very popular combos that work really well for this trip. But you can go up. You can go up from there. It depends on your willingness and your budget. Renting lenses is becoming really popular. So just go ahead and rent the lens and just basically take the biggest one that you feel like you want to carry, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, let me make this the last question. It's about whether bears mate for life.
No, they don't. Bears are incredibly promiscuous. One time at McNeil River, I watched a female mate with 9 different males in one day. So female can mate with 20 or 30 or 40 different males during her 2-week estrus period. Males want to mate with as many different females as possible. So yeah, they're absolutely 100% promiscuous, and nobody knows who's the father of the cubs, and the cubs actually can even come from different fathers. So like a female can have 3 cubs, and if she is mated with several different males, every cub might even have a different father. The fathers don't do anything. The males don't do nothing. It's all females raising their cubs is all just on their own. So they have no help from the parent. Good question, though.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we will stop there, and I am going to turn it over to you for closing comments.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Yeah, you can see that I'm pretty passionate about these bears, and once again, the other guides that are running this trip, Justin, Drew, and Eric, equal knowledge, equal experience, equal passion. We just, all 4 of us, what we really want to do is show you guys the other side of bears. The bears get a bad rap, bad reputations in other places because they are treated right. This is one place where bears are treated with respect, and they can show us the good side, their good side, and they are extremely easy to fall in love with. And it's all about building up that army of bear lovers so that we can start prioritizing saving these big, vast chunks of ecosystem to keep those bears around. Yeah, so if you go on a trip like this, what you do is you help put a value on those bears, and I think that's about the best donation that you can actually give to the bears. And I think that's kind of what Natural Habitat's all about, is making this responsible ecotourism actually a way to conserve, and that's goes right along the lines of why Natural Habitat and World Wildlife Fund are partners, because we have the same deal on that. We take you guys on trips because you want to go, but mostly because we all want to save those animals, and that's our motivation. So, yeah, let us try to do that. Come on.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much for being with us. And everybody listening, we will be sending the replay out to all of you by about this time tomorrow. So you will be able to review the information and share it with friends and family. I know several of you have spouses you're going to be trying to convince. So hopefully over your Christmas holidays, you can just settle in with this webinar replay and enjoy it. And we hope to see you out there. So with that, we will say good day and conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody, and thanks again, Brad.
Okay, thank you, guys.